Now, we talked about the window, and obviously we've talked about this at length, but do you know what we haven't really talked about too much is what went into this window and the makeup, as in we got players and we had talked about, defensive midfielders, attackers, everything that happened. It's who made this window. And naturally, we're talking about the likes of Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards played a part, and of course, Arne Slot. And I never thought I'd see Arne Slot FaceTiming, but there was a bit from an article here, and I just want to get the right bit. So there's a specific section or line. I've probably gone too far up now, actually, but around Michael Edwards, even to be fair, Julian Ward gets a little mention in this. Here we go. During a frantic transfer window, Edwards, Hughes and FSG technical director Julian Ward were all involved in transfer talks. Hughes took on the lion's share of negotiations, but the network of contacts Edwards and Ward built up from their previous stints meant there were occasions where they got involved at the same time as well. I mean, we're going to talk about the contracts and the importance of all these, but just to almost kick this bit off, Hughes, Edwards, Slot, they all have their own unique roles, but they're all so important to us now, aren't they?
Yeah, and we've had very recent memory of a backroom sort of team working tremendously well with the front of house. And as a result, then the club as a whole clicking brilliantly. We had that in the really successful period of Klopp's reign. And we have it again now. And we have a new manager in situ who, has the potential to be one of the greats. He's very much at the young stage of his career. He's not at it maybe as young as some others, but his success so far in Holland and with us would sort of mark him out as, to use the Mourinhoism, a bit of a special one. And where I think we have to acknowledge that we're lucky is that the balance seems to be really good and the working relationships seem to be decent, because again, when they fell apart a little bit in the tail end of Klopp's tenure, we did suffer. There's no two ways about that. Now, you and I have always been a little bit wary of being too all hail to the nerds. I think you and I have always had this sort of natural impulse to go, what are these lads going on about? I mean, you and I have both been part of WhatsApp chats where you would swear that Jesus himself had returned and he had brought, his boy band of Jesuses with him. And you were like, okay, lads, I mean, I really want this to be the case, but you'll pardon me if I'm not as all in as you on the, this, that, and the other. Now, there's evidence there to say that they are indeed the Jesus boy band so far, and I'm here for it. But the contracts thing is going to present a really interesting issue because each of them has an angle that we have to examine.
Yeah, this is maybe the toughest question, I reckon, tonight in terms of the big decision, and I don't even know how this is going to go as we talk about it. Almost looking at, out of these three, Arne Slot, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, who's most important to keep or who's most important to renew? And I always like when we do these shows, you should mention the GOAT on the screen, shouldn't you? Oh, yeah. Indy Callier there as well, because he talked about Arne Slot, and that contract looking to extend. And funnily enough, with this one, Trev, I think Slot will almost be the easiest one to talk about. So I'm going to leave him to last to discuss. But the first one on the chopping block for his importance, Richard Hughes. And I suppose that it's funny, isn't it? If you went back 12 months when we did the transfer show last summer, like what the evidence was for Richard Hughes is the way people are seeing it now, very different. But on the balance side, people are also saying, and we've got to look at this factually, well, yeah, Richard Hughes is getting credit. Of course he should. But the network contacts of Edwards and Ward played their part, and they played some negotiations. And we've said on the transfer show, our info was Michael Edwards was leading sales this summer, and look how well sales went at the same time. So that comes into the mix. There's also, I suppose I'd ask you, is there the element of Jesus Edwards trained his apostle Hughes, so could he train another apostle at the same time as well? Does that come into the mix?
I think that's the interesting way of looking at it. And it's hard to not step on what we're going to talk about next, but Edwards has his own discussion that we need to have. And there are reasons why he may or may not be keen to sign an extension on his contract. And so you're left with the situation and where you're thinking, well, would Hughes be okay on his own? And I guess maybe the few years or the couple of years with us now and having experience at the very top level of being part of these deals. I'm not saying he was inexperienced before. He's clearly highly rated.
Yeah.
But that can't hurt at all, Dave. No. I mean, you just get better at what you're doing if you're doing it at a high level on a continuous basis. Your contacts improve, your way of working improves. So I would be sort of, if that was the case, if Hughes is sort of the heir apparent in an Edwards free future, then I don't think I'd be as fearful, certainly like you said, as I would have been this time last year, because even just by dint of the fact of all of the successful stuff that we've done since, I think that would have to stand to him and add to his status in the game as well, which is very important for us when we're going to negotiating tables.
Yeah, we keep hearing, and you never know exactly what's true, as you said, but various articles that speaks multiple language, brilliant contacts around the globe, Serie A, knows everyone in the game. So, as you said, rubbing shoulders with more and more people, having that exposure at an elite level, it certainly can't hurt. I mean, Michael Edwards is, let's say, Baba Yaga or Kaiser Soze, but no one's ever quite fully sure, are they, like his role? All we know factually at the moment, head of football operations for FSG, all the suggestions came back, was never going to accept the sporting director role. It had to be something bigger. And obviously the multi-clubs come out. And we've heard talk recently that Liverpool have done due diligence on 30 or more football clubs. So you're thinking that might move forward at some point. But I suppose in that essence, and this is probably going to be sacrilege to some of the nerds and different people that we have in WhatsApp chat, but if his focus is spread on, say if it does happen, we do buy another club, a multi-club focus, is there an element to argue that eye off the ball Liverpool wise, and you can be spread too thin sometimes when you get to a senior role, can't you?
You could, but we also need to weigh that up against the other alternative, which is if we don't go ahead with this multi-club model, because we were led to believe that this is very much part of the carrot that was dangled in front of Michael Edwards. And if we don't go ahead with that, or at least in a timely fashion, we know that guy has offers. He has serious offers. We discussed some of them that were made semi-public on the transfer show, and you had great information about. Oh, look, Michael Edwards can back his car up and say, fill that boot up with as much gold as you like. He has lots of options. And so I think maybe given the status he has at the club, I'm totally taking for granted that he is as good as everybody says he is, and he's had this impact on the club that everybody says he has, because it's a difficult metric for me I'll get hard to evaluate it fully myself. But let's just accept that is the case. I would rather have him around, even in a figurehead role where he could liaise, and maybe if there is a big deal where you need to, what was that lad who used to put out oil rig fires, Red Adair back in the day? If you got to call him in, let's get him in here. Like he can sort of, he can do the big dog on it. So I think that's a far preferable situation, Dave, where he's potentially not as involved in the day-to-day than him not being at the club.
Yeah, true. It's someone's like, you don't know what you got till it's gone. I think that was a tune in the 70s or something, people, if you want to look it up. So, that could come into the mix. And for all the praise we're giving Hughes and Edwards, we'd be setting fires to things if this man doesn't get offered a contract renewal, aren't we? As you said, all the markings of already is an elite head coach. It's important we give him that title, head coach in the current structure, getting more respected. We've seen this summer as well, as we've heard, transfer pull with the likes of Florian Wirtz rejecting, players are responding to Arne Slot this way as now. I can't really think of another way of putting it. You have to get this guy renewed, because if Arne Slot wasn't to be renewed, there'd be a big gaping chasm at Liverpool, wouldn't there?
100%. And I don't think we're fully in command of how grateful we should be that he is the one that was chosen.
Yeah.
And when you take it back to just round out our conversation a little bit, we were actually, maybe through gritted teeth, but we were very close, very, very careful to point out on every transfer show the summer before last, the one that's just gone past, to say, look, the big recruitment job was to get Arne Slot in and his staff. And that was before we knew how good he was going to be. And as the season went on, the truth of that statement was borne out again and again and again, until the ultimate truth of it, he's won a freaking title in his first season, was there for everybody to see. He is a remarkable manager. He's such a perfect fit for the club. I wondered at the start if it was going to be a real issue, because we're so used to the people had taken Klopp on board as a sort of father, brother, daddy, best pal, confessional sort of, like they wanted to tell him all their sins. People were all in emotionally on Klopp in a way that we haven't seen since. They weren't even like that with Kenny. We haven't seen it since Shankly, and to be honest with you, that's great, but it's also quite the burden. And it leaves you as a fan base then, if you're suddenly without it, like you said, chasm. And this man has come in and he looks the part. He says the right things. He has humor and wit that fit in perfectly with our club. He can take the piss out of a potentially tense situation with a line or a smile. And he's clearly, and this is the most important thing and really the only thing that matters, he's clearly really good at what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a sharp operator in every single sense. And I'd actually forgot this, but about a year ago when we did a big decisions, I actually asked you about 3 contracts and to rank them importance. However, at the time, that was 3 players with 12 months left to go, wasn't it? 3 elite talents of a certain, I can't remember, some guy who went to Real Madrid, I think it was, but Mo and Virgil in the mix as well. So maybe it's apt. And that's a great line there by Midnight Toker. If Carlsberg made managers, absolutely. Arne Slot will be there. It's a nightmare of a question, and I know I'm throwing you a loaded grenade to make a big decision on this, Trev, but we're hearing that they're all obviously talking about their contracts and whether, they'll extend, and obviously we're hoping for a 3 from 3. Of course we are, but like we did a year ago, if you're to rank them in terms of importance of Hughes, Edwards, Slot, where are you going?
Oh, well, I'm absolutely going to wade into territory here, because I love this. This is what this show is all about. I'm going to wade into territory here. It's going to make me the enemy of our nerdy pals. And for me, the top man to renew, the top man to get the job done as quickly as possible is Arne Slot, because he is now a proven winner. And literally, that is all I give a shit about. Do I understand that the winning happens because of the other guys and the work they do behind the scenes as much, or at least quite a bit because of their work? Yeah, I get that. I'm not an idiot. And that's why they're second and third. So it's Arne first, without question. And if there's a second contract, if only one more can be done, is it Hughes? Is it Edwards? Well, look, Edwards has the track history with the club. He is this guy who is, his reputation is sort of unparalleled in football, to be honest. So you don't throw away an asset like that. So he has to be kind of number 2. The only thing I would say, there's a little bit of a kind of caveat here, in that if it's Michael Edwards, but Michael Edwards who's like slowly becoming a Bond villain and wants all the power in the world, and is going to start wearing white suits and stroking cats and heading out to Lucerne to his mountain hideout, I'm not sure about that. But it's a much of a muchness for me, because I've convinced myself that Richard Hughes is now very much capable of doing whatever we need him to do. And that he has been in the kind of the metaphor that you use, he has been trained up as a disciple. He's ready to go full Messiah. So I'm going to say it's much of a muchness really from me. But if you're going to ask me to call it, I'll say just Edwards because of reputation, second place. But it is Arne first.
Yeah, I can fully agree with that. It's Arne's that far ahead. 2 and 3 can't even see him in the distance. It's not even close. But like you said, I may just go Michael Edwards, because in my head, in real life, Michael Edwards would eliminate/assassinate Richard Hughes if he needed to and bring the next protege in. That's how I see it from a Bond villain perspective. And there's a few comments, funnily enough, coming in on the chat panel about Tom Werner, who's there on the photo. They're the vice chair, isn't he? People, this is the guy who was talking about wouldn't it be good if Liverpool played a game in America or abroad? I don't really think any of those three parties are looking for Tom Werner to be talking about Mark Gay or anything else, but we'll see if anything comes off the back of those comments. A tough one, that. Although I don't know if that is the toughest.